The new version of Twinmotion 2025.1 has been officially released, and it can finally be used. This version brings so many new features, but first, to install it, start the Epic Games launcher, go to Unreal Engine section, Twinmotion, choose from the drop-down menu the 2025 version, and then click on the install button. On the other hand, if you haven't downloaded Twinmotion yet, I made a video in the past where I show you how to download it for free. I'll leave you the link of this video in the description or click on the card here on the top right. The first thing you need to know is that the environment menu has been completely redesigned, and I have to say it is really amazing now. The first thing that jumps out is the fact that you will now be able to choose right away whether to use the Twinmotion Sky or an HDRI Sky. Using an HDRI Sky, you won't find very different settings than you were used to seeing with the old version. The only thing I will point out, but which I will analyze in a specific video in the future, is that you can now optimize the behavior of the HDRI Sky in relation to the Twinmotion Sun. The real new thing, however, concerns the use of Dynamic Sky. First of all, the old weather has been split into the cloud, season, wind and fog menus, and the same fate has befallen the old natural lighting menu, which has split into sun and sky. So now you can intervene separately on the individual topics, which of course have been enhanced considerably. The first one I'm talking about is the sun menu, where we now find exclusively options that relate to the sun, such as time of day, north position, intensity, etc. The only notable addition is the temperature option, that influences the color temperature of the directional light, even with a color. It is not to be confused with the white balance of the camera menu, that is a post-process effect that affects the temperature of the whole image. Also, the location menu has been included within the sun menu. The sky is now handled entirely within the reference menu, and from here, in addition to changing the ambient, we can interact with two new commands. Turbidity, which serves to change the clarity of the sky to simulate occluded lighting due to a significant amount of large particles floating in the atmospheres, such as pollution, dust, or aerosol, and atmosphere density, which affects the color of the sky by simulating everything from a non-existent to a thin or very thick atmosphere, imparting how different wavelengths scatter. Fantastic and wonderful new stars of the environment panel are the clouds. We can finally set the amount of 2D clouds without having to go through weather-related settings. But the real novelty is the 3D clouds, which enabling you to incorporate realistic cloud formations into your projects. These clouds can be animated and cast a realistic shadow across the scene. These clouds are for all intents and purposes 3D elements present in the scene, and setting them up is super easy. In fact, you can, with a couple of clicks, set the amount of clouds in the sky and their height, as well as randomize the graphics depending on the parameters you have set. However, if you wanted to go more specific, open the Appearance menu and change the color scale factor, color, presence of cirrus clouds, and the shape of the clouds previously set. Or, from the distribution menu, you can decide where the clouds will be positioned and whether or not they are affected by the wind. Obviously, in relation to how much wind you have set in the wind menu. In addition to all these, you can also use clouds presets provided by Epic Games team, or always create new ones and use them as needed by saving them as templates. Important news has also arrived in the season menu. The weather sliders have been split into separate sliders for greater flexibility. It is now possible to have a rain without clouds, or to have snow while keeping colorful autumn leaves on the trees and simulate the fall of the birthmarks in autumn despite the snow. The fog feature has been improved with the addition of new height and color sliders. The density slider has also been reworked to provide the option of increasing the amount of fog in your scene. Immense, exciting and great new addition. Environment templates have finally been added into Twinmotion. Presets are collections of settings that you can easily switch between. But even more important is that Twinmotion already includes pre-made presets, but you can also create your own and use them in any future project. This new feature is probably my favorite ever. changing argument, a fantastic new feature has been added, called Virtual Shadow Map. It's a new method that improves and fastens the shadow rendering in raster and lumen rendering modes. It's more accurate than the standard shadows and ensures consistency for shadow rendering between raster and path tracer rendering modes. To enable them, go to the Render menu, Shadow, and select Accurate. The sun bias and light bias parameters enable you to have accurate virtual shadow maps for the sun or for artificial lights. Turning now to media news, I can only start with the new system of creating video via SmoothPath. You can now intuitively ease controls for speed adjustment and spatial manipulation to achieve smooth and controlled camera motion. This is done by selecting points on a camera path and adjusting their tangents. To visualize the camera path, you simply start the preview mode, where I point out that the density of small points along the camera path provides an overview of the speed changes. Easing can be controlled at the part level for the beginning and the end of the part, and the default is set to ease in, ease out. In addition to this, you can now also set a target to which the camera will be constantly oriented. This ensures precise framing by easily controlling the camera direction with a target or look at constraint. Setting it up is super easy. You just select an object in the scene to use as the target and you are done. If needed, the target can also manage the depth of field distance value of the camera. To top it off, the ability to create the orbit cam that revolves the camera around its specified central pivot within the scene has also been added. Setting it up is really elementary, and all the controls are resoundingly simple. Not to mention that the camera easing can also be modified in the same way as seen just now. Perhaps, even before the new cloud system, this is the set of features that the most excited me the first time I saw it. I'm talking about the configurators, and I'm talking about them in the plural because they are 4 different types of media that, once created, enables you to click on buttons within the viewport to trigger actions such as changing materials or opening doors. I'll make a specific video where I'll explain in detail how they work, but for now you just need to know that the 4 types are: Properties, which gives you the ability to activate animators, previously set up in Twinmotion, to trigger reference trigger such as opening doors, sliding drawers, or anything else you can think of. Configurator material switch, which of course allow you to change the materials of any element with one click, whether that's a single piece of furniture or the whole group of walls or floors. The visibility configurator allows you to instantly view all the design variations set in Twinmotion, related to both individual elements but also to entire furniture groups. To top it off, the ambience configurator is great because it allows you to change the ambience settings depending on the different parameters set in the environments menu. You can then set different skies, time of day, or any other change of parameters you can think of. The great thing about the configurator stuff is that these can coexist in the same project, allowing you to present any work on Twinmotion in an interactive way you've never seen before. Personally, I love them and can't wait to show you specifically how they work. Thought this was the end of it. Is some more great news. By clicking any 3D objects from the Sketchfab library, Megascan, or imported from outside, we can interact with the new modeling tool section, and more specifically with the new face tool and mirror tool. In a nutshell, the first new option allows you in several ways either to interact with the faces of a mesh and reverse the normals, or to delete parts of surfaces. To edit surface normals, we use the Edit Normal tools, which highlights all negative faces in red and all positive faces in blue. Usually, with the AutoFix command, all faces are automatically turned positive, but if not, we can also switch to a manual selection. To delete faces of a surface, we use the Edit Face tool, which allows us to manually select part of a surface in different ways and then delete them when needed. Until the last version, it was possible to mirror 3D models using more workaround. Now, finally, the mirror command has been integrated, found in modeling objects. It is super easy to use. Select the 3D object, you can create a mirrored copy of it in one of the standard directions, and if you wanted, you could also merge the source object and the newly created one. Another great news concerns a command that until now has been little used, but from now I'm sure it will be very successful. I'm talking about the measure tools that you can find in the library under Tools, Measure. In fact, the new Measure Tool 2 has been added and allows you to measure the distance between two selected points in the scene. This tool also has the option to quickly align the measure on a word axis by shift-clicking while placing the second point of the measure. Assigning a level of detail to a 3D object is the best way to keep a project light and fluid in use, and from now on it will be possible to do this in Twinmotion as well. By selecting geometry in a scene, you can view and specify the viewport LOD in the Properties panel. 3 presets, Normal, Complex and Simple, provide different representations of the imported geometry based on the distance between the viewport camera and the visible elements. You can check the visual consistency of LODs in the 3D viewport with the Display LOD parameter. Of course, this parameter does not affect the final rendering. Let's turn now to the Twinmotion library. Specifically, in the metal section, you will find 4 new materials, named coated carbon fiber, that are essentially designed to be used for the automotive industry, but can also be used for other purposes, such as for the bicycle or product design world. Still related to the automotive world, a new type of material was introduced. I'm talking about tire, that textures and automatically creates UVs for flat cylindrical objects, such as tires. To finish up the automotive-related talk, the materials in the curve paint category have been significantly enhanced, particularly with the new perlation scale, clear color roughness and imperfections features, which are definitely worth activating to create small imperfections such as dust, fingerprints or scratches on the surfaces of any automotive. Also in the library is the new Projector Light light source, enabling you to project personal videos or image onto an environment. It includes various settings to correct projection, distortion and mask parts of the video's image. Latest library implementation concerns Confetti Particles, a new type of particle system added to the library in the Object Particles category. That is the first one in Twinmotion that offers a series of presets that can also be customized in the Properties panel. Moving on to the import section, from now on you can import file from the Autodesk Alias software into Twinmotion in the .wire format. A great new feature concerns the import through the geometry panel, so valid for all generic formats and the UDataSmith. In the import phase, it is possible to activate the check on two-sided geometry, to avoid that in the Twinmotion scene some surfaces are not displayed due to inverted face coming from the 3D modeling software, especially in the freeform. In any case, my advice is always to import a quality 3D model and with all the normals correctly set, also because activating the two-sided geometry command at the import time weighs down the final file. Last but not least, now from the import menu it is possible to directly delete all files with a multi-selected and pressing on delete from the keyboard, without having to delete them one by one by clicking in the context menu. Definitely very useful, especially when importing many 3D models downloaded from the web in the same scene, so as to keep it lighter. The last implementations are more theoretical, and I will quickly list them for you. When exporting a Twinmotion scene to DataSmith, the area and spacing tools are now supported. These elements will be correctly imported into Unreal Engine. The experience of using the combined viewer in Twinmotion has been greatly enhanced, especially the fact that from now on it will be possible to enable the Lumen rendering engine for a more premium experience. Latest implementation, the older legacy add-on plugins are no longer supported and have been removed. To use direct link functionality, download the plugin again from the official website. To conclude, it is important to keep in mind that this is a preview version, so it is not 100% stable yet. It is therefore recommended to use it to try out the new features, and it is not recommended to use it for work projects, just to avoid bug problems or crashes resulting to the instability of this version. Thank you so much for watching this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content, like the video so you can help me with the algorithm, and suggest me in the comment what topic of these new features you would like me to cover in the next videos. That said, I wish you a good day or evening and see you very soon. Ciao!